Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Imagine a wildfire is racing toward your mosque, flames 50 feet high, winds at 60 miles per hour. Everything in its path, homes, trees, lives, consumed in seconds. Firefighters say there's no hope. Families pray desperately. The heat is unbearable, the smoke blinding. Then at the last possible moment, the wind shifts. The fire that destroyed everything around it stops, literally stops at the mosque's doorstep. The building stands untouched, not a single burn mark. Today, I'm telling you the true story of Masjid al-Hikmah in Los Angeles, the mosque that shouldn't exist, but does, and how its miraculous survival converted hearts, united a city, and proved that sometimes faith is stronger than fire. Before we begin this incredible journey, send salawat upon the Prophet Muhammad. Type Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the comments, and may Allah protect us all. Welcome to Roots of Islam. Hit subscribe because this story will give you goosebumps. A spark becomes an inferno. It started so small, a single spark in the Angeles National Forest just outside Los Angeles. Maybe it was a cigarette, maybe a campfire ember, maybe lightning, no one knows for sure. But in California's drought-stricken landscape, that spark was all it took. The perfect storm. Southern California in late summer is a tinderbox. No rain for months. Temperatures over 100 degrees. Humidity at 5%. Vegetation dry as paper. Then came the Santa Ana winds, those legendary desert winds that turn small fires into catastrophes. The Santa Ana winds are hot, sometimes 100 degrees, dry. Humidity drops to zero, fast. Gusts up to 70 mm smoked. Relentless, blow for days. When these winds hit that tiny spark, the fire exploded. Hours, 1 to 6, containment fails. Hour 1, fire crews arrive, it's manageable, they think. Hour 3, the fire has doubled in size, winds are accelerating it beyond control. Hour 5, mandatory evacuations begin, thousands flee their homes. Hour 6, the fire is now a firestorm, creating its own weather system, generating tornadoes of flame. The destruction. By nightfall, the fire had burned 15,000 acres, destroyed 500 homes, killed wildlife by the thousands, created a smoke plume visible from space. Families watched on TV as their neighborhoods burned. Firefighters battled flames 50 feet high. Helicopters dropped water that evaporated before hitting the ground. One resident described it. It looked like the apocalypse. The sky was orange. Ash fell like snow. The air was so thick with smoke, you couldn't see 10 feet ahead. Masjid al-Hikmah, more than a building. In the foothills, directly in the fire's path, stood Masjid al-Hikmah, Mosque of Wisdom. This wasn't just any mosque. It was the spiritual heart of a thriving Muslim community. The building built in 1995. Beautiful architecture blending Islamic and California styles. 2 minarets reaching toward the sky. Large prayer hall accommodating 500 worshippers, library, classrooms, community center. The community, 300 families. Diverse Arab, Pakistani, African American, Latino, white converts, active programs, Quran classes, youth groups, charity work, known for community service and interfaith outreach. Every Friday, the parking lot overflowed. During Ramadan, the mosque came alive with iftar dinners, Taraweeh prayers, and community bonding. For the Muslims in that area, the mosque was home. Imam Malik, the steady leader. Imam Malik, the mosque's spiritual leader for 15 years, was beloved. Gentle but firm, wise counselor, bridge builder with other faith communities, always reminding people, trust Allah's plan. When news of the approaching fire reached him, Imam Malik called an emergency gathering. The evacuation order. At 6 p.m., the police issued the evacuation order for their area. Leave now. Take only essentials. The fire will reach you within hours. Families scrambled, grabbing photos, documents, jewelry, packing children and pets into cars, leaving behind everything else, not knowing if they'd have homes to return to, the emergency prayer. But before leaving, the community gathered at the mosque one last time. Over 200 people came. even as ash fell from the sky, even as the orange glow grew brighter on the horizon. Imam Malik stood before them. Brothers and sisters, we don't know what tomorrow brings. This building, these walls, they are just wood and stone. What matters is what's in here. He pointed to his heart. Our faith, our community, our love for Allah and for each other. Fire can burn buildings, but it cannot burn belief. Then he recited a hadith. When difficulty descends upon you, do not say, "If only I had done such and such." Rather say, "Allah has decreed, and what He wills, He does." For verily, if only opens the door for Satan's work. People wept. They embraced. They made dua together, the impossible decision. Some families left, but a small group, about 30 people, refused to go. "If this mosque burns, we burn with it," one elderly man said. Imam Malik didn't order them to stay, but he didn't order them to leave either. He simply said, "If you stay, we stay together and we trust Allah." So they stayed, praying, watching, waiting. The fire approaches by 9 p.m. The fire was half a mile away. By 10 p.m. it was a quarter mile. By 11 p.m. they could feel the heat through the walls. The sky was no longer orange, it was blood red. Embers fell like rain. The roar of the fire sounded like a freight train. One woman later described it. "I thought we were going to die. I held my children and recited Ayat al-Kursi over and over. I just kept saying, 'Allah, if this is our time, let us die as believers.'" 11:45 p.m. The fire reaches the mosque. The flames were now at the mosque's property line. Trees 20 feet from the building were engulfed. The heat was unbearable. The noise deafening. Firefighters had given up on the area. Too dangerous, too fast-moving. They'd written off everything in this neighborhood. Inside the mosque, people lay prostrate on the floor, making dua. "Ya Allah, protect this house of yours. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, save us." 11:52 p.m. The moment. Then it happened. The wind, which had been blowing steadily from the northeast, pushing the fire toward the mosque, suddenly shifted. Not gradually, suddenly, it changed direction by almost 90 degrees, blowing from the southeast instead. The flames that were about to consume the mosque were pushed back. The fire that had destroyed everything in its path for miles stopped at the mosque's edge. The aftermath. By midnight, the immediate danger had passed. The fire had moved away from the mosque, driven by the new wind direction toward an area with less fuel. When people stepped outside, they couldn't believe what they saw. Destroyed. The house, 50 feet to the north, burned to the ground. The trees 20 feet to the west, charred stumps. The community center 100 feet to the east, ashes, vehicles in the parking lot, melted, untouched. The mosque itself, not a single burn mark. The minaret, standing tall, the windows, not even cracked from heat. The grass immediately around the building, still green. It was as if an invisible barrier had protected the mosque. The firefighters' testimony. When firefighters arrived the next morning for cleanup, they were stunned. Chris Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran firefighter, said, "I've been fighting wildfires for 2 decades. I've never seen anything like this. The fire destroyed everything around the mosque. I mean everything. But the mosque, not even smoke damage. I can't explain it. Scientifically, it makes no sense." Another firefighter, Maria Chen, added, "The wind shift. I checked the weather data. There was no meteorological reason for it. No pressure change, no front moving in. It just shifted right at the moment the fire reached the mosque. That doesn't happen, but it did." Aidan, the seeker. Among those who witnessed the event was Aidan, a 28-year-old who'd recently converted to Islam. He'd taken his Shahada just 3 months earlier, but still had doubts. Was this the right decision? Would his family ever accept it? Was he strong enough to maintain this faith? That night, watching the mosque survive while everything around it burned, those doubts vanished. "I knelt down right there in the street, still covered in ash, and I thanked Allah," Aidan said. "For months I'd been asking for a sign. This was my sign. Not just that Islam is true, but that Allah is real, present, and protecting his believers. Aidan went on to become a Dari, Islamic preacher, dedicating his life to sharing Islam with others. Clara. The skeptical journalist Clara Martinez, a journalist for the LA Times, was covering the wildfire. She'd grown up Catholic, but had become agnostic in college. "I believed in science, not miracles," she said. But when she arrived to document the destruction and saw the mosque standing untouched, something shifted. "I'm trained to be objective, to find logical explanations. But standing there, looking at that mosque surrounded by ashes, with houses 50 feet away completely gone, I couldn't explain it away." Clara spent weeks interviewing everyone involved. Firefighters, meteorologists, the Muslim community. No one could provide a scientific explanation. 3 months later, Clara took her Shahada at Masjid al-Hikmah. "I realized that faith isn't the opposite of logic. Sometimes logic leads you to faith. This mosque surviving, that's not coincidence, that's divine intervention." David, the firefighter. David Johnson, an atheist firefighter, was one of the first responders at the scene the next morning. "I'd spent my whole life believing we're just accidents of evolution, that there's no greater meaning," he said. "But looking at that mosque, perfectly intact while everything around it was destroyed, I felt something I'd never felt before. Peace, like I was witnessing something sacred." David began studying Islam. Within 6 months he converted. "I used to fight fires. Now I fight for truth. And the truth is, what happened that night wasn't natural, it was a miracle. And miracles don't happen without God." The world takes notice. News of the mosque's survival spread quickly. Local media. Every LA news station ran the story. National media, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC all covered it. International media, Al Jazeera, BBC, major outlets, worldwide social media. The story went viral, millions of views. Some people called it a miracle. Others tried to explain it scientifically, but no one could deny the facts. Unity in crisis. Something beautiful emerged from the tragedy. The Muslim community, whose mosque had been spared, didn't celebrate alone. They immediately turned the mosque into a relief center. What they provided: free meals for displaced families, Muslim and non-Muslim, shelter for those who'd lost homes, clothing and supplies, counseling and emotional support, coordination with relief agencies. Imam Malik's message: "Allah protected this mosque not for us to hide in it, but for us to serve from it. Our neighbors lost everything. We must help them rebuild." Interfaith support. And the response from other communities was overwhelming. Churches sent volunteers and donations